Hello again, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us for Monday's edition of Alaska Weather. I'm Dave Percy, and I'll be hosting tonight's show. Up first, hazardous weather graphic. We've got winter storm warning continues out here, mostly up along the southern slopes of the western mountains here, Brooks Range, DeLong Mountains, and those areas. And that's out through tonight till actually 6 a.m. Tuesday morning for additional snow, and in some cases rain and snow mixed, or kind of just with the gusty winds. And again, that will remain out tonight and then improve tomorrow. And the winter weather advisory here east of that area along the southern slopes of the central and eastern Brooks Range, that's out until 6 p.m. Tuesday for gusty winds, rain and snow, and some areas of blowing snow, especially through the passes here, and possible pretty icy conditions. And then we've got the high surf advisory remaining out here for St. Lawrence Island, Bering Strait coast, and also the Yukon Delta coast for high surf due to gusty winds and some pretty good waves, I guess, crashing on shore to the surf could cause some minor beach erosion. But that's out through Tuesday night here for these areas. And the interior of the Seward Peninsula winter weather advisory out through tomorrow for that area for snow, blowing snow, mixed precipitation, icy conditions, that sort of thing out through tomorrow. Other than that, not a lot going on. We've got this intense storm coming northward, but heading northward way out to the west there, just about to make landfall on the coast of the Russian Far East, and that's swinging a pretty good trough eastward here into the central Aleutians. Behind that trough, leading edge of colder air coming in toward the way into the Shimei area. They're reporting snow and winds gusting to 50 miles an hour to the northwest, with temperatures just a shade below freezing. Rain and snow at Adak, leading edge of that colder air right there here early on, and they're kind of getting a mixture of rain and snow this afternoon, with Atka still in the rain belt. This front weakening, as it appears on the chart here on these frames, as it comes eastward, but it was a pretty good wind producer today, with places like Cape Romanzoff seeing gusts to 70 miles per hour, while Cape Newenham this afternoon had gusts 72 miles an hour as well. So about 70, 75 miles an hour along the exposed areas of the southwest coast. And up to the north, gusty winds as well. Bering Strait, Tin City, gusts 57 or 8 miles per hour, close to 60 miles an hour this afternoon there through the Bering Strait. And otherwise, Pribilofs here seeing gusts of 50 to 55 miles per hour, but the strongest winds back to the west and up to the north now. Although, like I said, Shimei seeing 50-mile-an-hour gusts out of the west-northwest as that colder air rushes in behind. Otherwise, just clouds here with this, just kind of disorganized clouds coming over the top and through a building ridge of high pressure right through this area here. So really no precipitation to speak of. Anything that did occur was very light and insignificant. Had a partly mostly sunny day here across the southeast coast, with temperatures in some areas rising into the lower 60s. Kilowog was the warmest temperature I could find in the state this afternoon at 61 degrees, and otherwise in the 50s down that way, but dry, light winds. And we've got moisture surging northward, but also starting to take a turn to the east along this frontal boundary here. So we're going to see that increasing winter weather advisory, southern slopes of the Brooks Range, or the southeastern Brooks Range, and that winter weather warning continuing up here in the northwest, as I mentioned, until 6 a.m. Otherwise, windy, wet conditions along this front in advance, with the rain extending all the way down to the Alaska Peninsula. Rainfall amounts about 0.8 of an inch during the day today at Cold Bay, and Scammon Bay had about 0.4 of an inch. Otherwise, everywhere else was lighter, anywhere up to 1/3 of an inch actually falling in the form of mostly snow in Nome, but that all kind of getting mixed in with rain coming fairly far to the north here, and that mixed zone right through here, north side of the Seward Peninsula, areas of snow back up to the northwest there. Had some dense fog central Arctic coast earlier today. That's broke out this afternoon. They're definitely improved above the 1/4 to 1/2 mile visibilities they had earlier. And then some scattered precipitation here of a mixed variety eastward along that frontal boundary, but as I mentioned, that's going to be increasing. And for tonight, you'll see that low continues to track due north, and the front will continue to push in. Good southwest flow, and actually a couple upper troughs are going to push this in mostly to the north. The southern portion is really going to weaken, but still periods of light rain tonight for the Bristol Bay area into Kodiak Island, southwest Kodiak Island, chance of some moisture there. Otherwise, variable clouds here, south central Alaska, high pressure sitting right over, well, the Matanuska Valley there at 1,021 millibars. So winds are going to be light, definitely, but there'll be some clearing here. I don't think fog will be too much of a problem. And then moisture, as I mentioned, sliding now southeastward, scattered rain and snow showers along that boundary there, with amounts of very light, heavier amounts back here to the northwest. Pretty still strong winds there, St. Lawrence Island. And again, that's supporting those high surf advisories that remain out through tomorrow in that area there. That's could see gusts definitely in excess of 50 to maybe 60 miles an hour. And then winds diminishing here over the Pribilofs, and breezy with scattered showers in the form of rain for the Fox Islands, though those pretty isolated. But back to the west there, probably mostly snow out here over the western areas, and a mixture over the Adak-Atka area, but again, the heaviest amounts will be west of Adak there. Dry for the Panhandle continues, maybe some low clouds along the coast, but winds will stay light. And then for tomorrow, we've got some moisture slipping up from the southeast here. That could bring, again, a chance of showers, better chance of clouds there for the places like Heidelberg over toward Hyder and Stewart, and then the other locations, Ketchikan, Annette Island, and Metlakatla. Just a slight chance of some showers, but the threat does exist. But up to the north, partly to mostly sunny. The effect that'll have is probably be a little cooler on your high temperatures than you were today down that way. Mostly clear along the North Gulf Coast, or at least partly to mostly clear, and a good possibility you'll see some fair amount of sunshine, Kenai Peninsula up into the eastern interior in the Fairbanks area. As this front edges eastward through the area high pressure, it's holding together better up here in the north, even though even up there it's still weakening, but just scattered showers here in the southern quadrant breaking out behind that, and also drying out along the southwest coast with diminishing winds. That low center up in the Russian Far East weakening, windiest conditions up here over the northwest coast from the Bering Strait on up to the western Arctic coast. And again, even up there, starting to get a mixture of precipitation of that warm air surging northward, but the air behind this front actually quite a bit cooler, especially aloft. So keep the rain in, or put the snow symbol in those showers there. Rain showers here over the Aleutians, and snow showers possibly from the Pribilofs, but out to the west, but really improving conditions there across the Aleutians. And that'll continue, as we'll see, into Wednesday as well. Really kind of a benign pattern out here. A couple of weak troughs caught up in the southwest flow keeps a chance of rain or snow showers over the Pribilofs, maybe down to the Fox Islands. That's about it. Just a lot of clouds, maybe some clearing, light winds, and another trough up here in the Bering Strait for snow showers, and that southwest flow carrying snow showers, and but a lot lighter, less wind, less precipitation, but a little chillier in the air now, so losing the mixed precipitation should be in the form of snow, whatever does fall, but it will be light, high pressure building into the central interior, and that results in obviously light winds, dry conditions, and some areas will see a fair amount of sunshine, and other areas will see a few more clouds, but that'll extend right down to the North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound. Kodiak, kind of iffy there, likely to see some fog and low clouds right along the east side, better chance of sun, Akiak, Old Harbor, and into Bristol Bay. Southeast coast looks sunny for the most part with light winds and mild temperatures. Maybe a few isolated rain and snow showers sneaking into maybe around the Eagle area. That system coming over the top of the ridge way up here and weaken, and high pressure, as I mentioned, building in back behind. That'll even help clear it out a little bit on the central North Slope. Low temperatures forecast for tonight, upper 30s to lower 40s for the Panhandle, lower to mid 30s here for the south central area, with the mid 30s out along the outer coastline, otherwise 20s in the Copper River Basin, 20s to lower 30s eastern Tanana Valley, and in the milder southerly windy cloudier areas, of course milder in the 30s, some cases upper 30s, teens central eastern Arctic coast. Highs for tomorrow, 35 to 40 for the Aleutians, Pribilofs, lower 40s here to upper 40s into northeast Bristol Bay, 50 to 55-ish there for the Tanana Valley, and lower 30s along the Arctic coast, mid 30s St. Lawrence Island. Highs in the 50s. Some areas could still see lower 60s there for the Panhandle. Lows the following morning back down into the 30s, and 25 to 32 or 3 here south central Alaska, mid 20s Copper River Basin, and 15 to 20 in the Brooks Range, with 20s lower 30s in the central interior, teens on the Arctic coast, upper 20s, cooler air now coming in. So back down into the 25 to 32 degree range, lower to mid 30s for the Alaska Peninsula. And then your highs Wednesday afternoon should be more sunshine, so temperatures sit in the valley, better chance of pushing into the lower 50s. 45 to 50-ish in the Tanana Valley there, possibly up around 50 over toward Northway or Tok. And the southeast coast, call it 55 to 65 for your highs there. Mid 40s for Kodiak Island due to the low clouds and fog, and lower 40s for the Alaska Peninsula.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
First flying weather graphic for Tuesday morning. Just areas of marginal VFR out here over the Bering Sea and Aleutians that turn to VFR for the Fox Islands and up to the north along the Kuskokwim Bay area and IFR inland. This area IFR pushing inland with that front and kind of weakening as it does, but still pretty good here in the west and then along the southern slopes of the Brooks Range, actually in the Kobuk, Koyukuk, Upper Yukon valleys, and more IFR, Gulf of Alaska, not just barely reaching the coastline there, the Panhandle. Tomorrow afternoon, that fades back here, especially up here over the northern Gulf and in toward the southeast coast here. But due to that system there near the Queen Charlottes, that's keeping some conditions in the marginal category for the southern Panhandle. IFR persists here along and south of the Brooks Range, eastern central Arctic coast. VFR kind of expanding here, almost up to St. Lawrence Island, back down to the Alaska Peninsula, marginal out to the west. And for Wednesday morning, we've got a band of IFR here that's slipped inland and extending from the Koyukuk Valley right on down along the Alaska Range into Bristol Bay to Kuskokwim Bay, and marginal VFR, Bering Strait and the Seward Peninsula, VFR for the North Slope on out to the Arctic coast, and areas of VFR out over the Bering Sea, VFR for the Panhandle, still some marginal conditions right along Prince of Wales Island coast. And then for Wednesday afternoon, good VFR here, even along and off the coast here of the Panhandle, up into the northeastern Gulf of Alaska, Prince William Sound, Cook Inlet, Kenai Peninsula, Matanuska Valley, mostly Susitna, VFR, back to the northwest. Some IFR here though. Looks like over the eastern Alaska Range up across the 40-mile country, VFR, North Slope, Arctic coast, IFR catching Point Hope, Cape Lisburne, and also from the southern Seward Peninsula, Whale or Tin City, Nome, especially Nome, on down to the north side of the Alaska Peninsula. Bering Sea, not too bad, expanding VFR out that way. And for passes for tomorrow, Tuesday, IFR at times for both Aitken and Anatuvik though. I'll go for marginal there. And for Lake Clark and Merrill, marginal VFR. Rainy, looks kind of marginal as well throughout the day. All three Western Alaska Range passes look to be mostly marginal. But windy, VFR, and Isabel, same forecast, VFR flying there, and Mentasta also open, Tanita, VFR, Portage, VFR. Of course, VFR doesn't mean clear skies or just high cirrus. It just means the ceilings are above 3,000 feet and the visibility is greater than 5 miles. And for Chilkoot and White, VFR. And for the freezing levels here, again, southerly flow, that front edging in, pushing 2,000 to 4,000 feet right up into the northern interior, almost to the Brooks Range, 6,000 feet northern Gulf, Kenai Peninsula, and 4 to 6,000 across the southeast coast. Icing really not much of a threat here. Best chance would be along that frontal boundary that's really weakening as it pushes through that ridge axis, but could be some areas of light, maybe considerable moderate rime icing, and that area really diminishes even for the light stuff as you get south here along the Alaska Range. A little bit better up to the north, but still nothing serious. And this out here really, now I think about, is kind of an over forecast. So the jet stream, a really sharp high amplitude ridge as we call it, with the center there near or just east of Kodiak, so good south flow, 120 knots over the west coastal areas, not much flow over the interior, and back around to the north, right across Yakutat at 100 knots, diving way down to the south, and 9,000 feet here, southwest flow, 35 to 50 knots or so here over the eastern Bering, 40 knots through the Bering Strait, 50 to 55 knots here over the west-northwest interior, falling back to 30 on the Arctic coast. Light winds, southeast interior, 15 to 20 across the Panhandle. 3,000-foot winds looking like this, about the same. 25 to 35, some cases 40 to 45 knots here, 50 knots just west of St. Matthew Island, and west-southwest 25 to 40 for the Aleutians. Light winds, southeast interior, 5 knots, 5 to 10 here from the Tanana Valley, and then 10 to 20 there for the southeast coast. Turbulence-wise, a big area of considerable moderate chop, below about 6,000 feet, especially for small aircraft here from the northwest, right on down into the Yukon Delta, also out over the central and western Alaska Range. And after the break, I'll be back with today's sea ice analysis and the marine forecasts.
Welcome back to another edition of Alaska Weather Facts. I'm meteorologist Dave Snider, and joining me once again is Cindy Preller. She is the Tsunami Program Manager for the National Weather Service in Alaska region. Thanks for joining us again, Cindy.
Thank you, Dave.
We're talking about tsunami awareness and safety here in Alaska especially, and one of the things that has been one of your main focuses is the Tsunami Ready program. What is that, and how do Alaskans find out more?
Awesome. Yeah, Tsunami Ready is a National Weather Service hosted program in partnership with Storm Ready.
Okay.
And it is a program that we conduct with our partners in the state, but it's mostly community driven. So if a community wants to become tsunami ready, well, the first thing they need to do is get a hold of me or their local WCM at a weather forecast office or their tsunami team at the state level.
So, and this is something that's a NOAA grant, so there's money available to help encourage the preparedness at the local level there in the city or the village.
Yeah.
What are some of the places that have done this already?
Oh, our oldest tsunami ready city is Seward,
Good.
you know, but also Sitka, Homer, Valdez are the, you know, the main players, but we've got several tsunami ready communities that I'm very proud of. It takes several years to accomplish this. And so a few of the things that they do is the tsunami risk will be assessed by someone like me or another scientist will help find out, you know, really what their probability is. We'll create an inundation map, an evacuation map. They'll have a mitigation plan. We will set up some partnerships with the schools, make an evacuation shelter, and then they need to practice. But it is the city that owns the program, really. It's up to them. And many cities would like to have sirens, and so we help them get those. And, you know, and they practice. They have to practice.
Sure. So let's say I'm driving into a place like Seward that's tsunami ready. What are some of the things I should look for as maybe a visitor so I know maybe where I need to go or can be more aware of my tsunami risk?
Absolutely. The tsunami ready signage is really blatant. It's this, you know, blue and white curling wave sign, and there's different shapes of signs that'll show you if you are in the hazard zone or where the evacuation routes are and when you're out of shelter.
Okay. So this is a multi-step process that helps the residents be more aware of their own risk, but then also prepare for when that risk arrives.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, you know, many communities sound their sirens daily, some sound them weekly, you know, to make sure everybody knows what they mean. And there's often drills. We have an annual drill once a year. We have Tsunami Awareness Preparedness Week, and that's a good time for each community to do some exercising.
Okay. And is this a program that is unique to Alaska?
Absolutely not. It's national.
Okay.
And all over the country, you'll have the same signage, so it's consistent.
Good. So if I'm taking the kids to California, I should be able to see something familiar.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And, you know, some communities hesitate because they think it'll discourage tourism. And so I would like to tell those communities that what they're actually doing is they're encouraging responsibility.
Sure.
The tsunami's going to happen.
Right.
And it's going to hit every coastline. So, you know, it's not about when, it'll be any time. So the fact that they're showing tourists that they are making steps to be prepared for this, I think would encourage people to want to stay there.
Right, and that would be no different than, say, you or I visiting the Midwest, where we know there's going to be really bad thunderstorms and maybe there's a risk for tornadoes. We're aware of that risk when we go there.
Absolutely. If I see a sign for a tornado shelter, I'm going to remember that.
Right. Okay. All right. So we're just doing a better job of being more prepared with something that's bound to happen again.
I hope so.
Okay. Very good. Where can people go again to learn more about the Tsunami Ready program here in Alaska?
Well, one, there is a Tsunami Ready website. So, you know, just Tsunami Ready,
Google
and that'll
Tsunami
get you
Ready.
there.
Okay.
And then probably the best person for people to contact is their warning coordination meteorologist at their local weather forecast office, which is Anchorage or Juneau, most likely.
Okay. All right. So most of the folks along the Bering Sea coast, again, are not at a huge risk for tsunamis at this
No,
point.
they don't need to worry about it.
Okay,
Thank
very
you.
good. But always learning to be prepared no matter where you are in Alaska, no matter what the risk, always a good step. And tsunami is a major player in that, as we well know from events like 1964. Okay.
Alaskans are resilient. I really believe in them.
Very good, very good. Well, Cindy, thank you so much for joining us again, and please make an effort to learn more about the Tsunami Ready program in your village and town if you haven't already. We'll be back with Cindy again next time to talk more about the Tsunami Warning Center in Palmer, Alaska. We actually have a group of geologists working for the National Weather Service, so scratch your head on that one and we'll join you next time. I'll see you next time on Alaska Weather Packs.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Today's sea ice analysis is already showing the ice beginning to retreat northward here out in the northern Bering Sea, and that trend's going to continue and should see a pretty good decrease in ice here over the northern Bering Sea right on up into the Bering Strait over the next 4 or 5 days. Coastal water forecast: north 20 knots on the south coast here of the Panhandle, and north-northwest 15 to 20. On the north coast, strongest winds up here in Lynn Canal with sustained 30, gusts 45 knots, even those northerly 30-knot winds into Stevens Passage. And for Clarence Strait, pretty light out of the southeast. And for Wednesday, those turn northwest, still light at 10 knots. East 20 knots here, south and central coast, southeast 15 up north, and north 20 for both Lynn Canal and Passage Canal as well. And for the northern Cook Inlet forecast tomorrow, north 10, 15 knots south of the Forelands, northwest 15 Kamishak Bay, and still carrying small craft advisory westerlies here for the Barren Islands, falling back to west-northwest at 20 for the North Gulf Coast, and for Prince William Sound, northwest of 15 with just 2-foot seas. And kind of a variable to east light wind pattern coming up for Prince William Sound on Wednesday. Same thing here for the eastern North Gulf Coast, 10 knots in both areas, 2 to 4 foot seas. East 15, 4-foot seas for the western zone, and still small craft advisories northeast 25 for the Barren Islands, north 25 Kamishak Bay, northerlies 10 to 15 for Cook Inlet. And Bristol Bay, light southwest winds at 10 tomorrow, southwest 15 for Shelikof Strait and the areas southwest of Sitkinak, west side of Kodiak, west 20, and west-southwest 15 to 20 knots there for the Alaska Peninsula. Wednesday's outlook, winds turn around to the northeast, 20 to 25 knots here for Kodiak, strongest on these eastern marine zones, and north 20 from Sitkinak to Castle Cape to Cape Sarachev, light northerlies, but seas still up there around 11 feet. North side of the peninsula, east at 15, Bristol Bay northeast 15, just 4-foot seas. And out over the western Aleutians, central Aleutians, southwest 30 knots, 8 Atkatka, 16 to 19-foot seas, and then seas near 20 feet with still 30 knot southwest winds all the way out to the western zones. And the Fox Islands, kind of skipped over them. Looks like south to southwesterlies here, mostly 25 knots, so definitely small craft advisories with seas 14 to 20 feet. Now moving on to Wednesday, south 10 to 15 knots, so dropping off on the winds there for these Aleutians, actually everywhere, and south to southwest 15. And then these winds out in the west here, coming up late in the day, maybe up to 40 knots, that'd be west of Kiska, mostly Shimmy and Attu actually, and then trending up back toward small craft advisories there, well west of Adak. And for the southwest coast tomorrow, south 25 to 30 knots, southwest 30 for the Pribilofs, and south 30 for St. Matthew Island, gales for St. Lawrence Island, and 25 knots in Norton Sound. So lighter than today, but still pretty breezy. And continue the decrease in the winds here for Wednesday. Pribilofs 20 knots from the south, southerlies 20 here for the coast. South 25 for St. Matthew Island, and small craft advisories continue for Norton Sound and St. Lawrence Island. And for the eastern Boulevard Sea coast tomorrow, easterlies 25 to 30, but the brisk wind advisories here pick up on the east side and extend actually all the way down to the Bering Strait, with the exception of the area from Cape Thompson to Cape Beaufort. You'll see gales out of the south at 35 knots. And then for Wednesday, even stronger, full gales now from the Bering Strait right up here on the west side, probably to Point Lay, southerlies 35 to 40 knots. Brisk wind advisories central and east coast, southwest 25 and west 25 for the eastern zone. And for tonight, this front edging inland, really weakening here, and you can see less gradient, winds really dropping off, but staying quite windy back here across St. Lawrence Island, although it should be in a dry slot there behind the front, and windy up here. Winter storm warning remains out for the southern slopes of the western DeLong and Brooks Range Mountains through tonight. Winter weather advisory, southeastern Brooks Range, or central and southeastern Brooks Range through midday tomorrow, and otherwise not bad tonight over the interior, panhandle dry. This front pushes moisture into the Kuskokwim Valley, mostly in the form of light rain or showers, possibly up to the Alaska Range. Otherwise, south central Alaska into the interior, looking pretty good with sunshine into the North Gulf Coast and into the Panhandle. Chance of showers down south, and the next day high pressure builds in over the interior for nice conditions.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.